Hello and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin O'Powers, and we are talking about Friday the 13th for this week's episode. Now, I have two special guests for me this week. They've been here before, but we want to talk about more films, and so we're going to do this one right. What we have today is Jim Adams and Sarah Panozzo. Jim, reiterate our audience about who you are, what you do.
Well, I'm really shocked that I was asked to be on this one because you wanted to have it done right and invite me. I'm the host of Monster Attack, a podcast, a weekly podcast for the last 7.5 years that has dealt with old classic monster movies. Although we have been dealing with some now in the 80s, I guess they're considered classics now. But pretty much started with my childhood as a monster kid and my introduction to horror movies and monster movies in the second grade. And well, actually first grade, it was the end of first grade when I got introduced to them, and then taking it from there up the ladder. So we have a lot of fun. Have several rotating co-hosts, amongst them artist Mark Maddox, artist Clay Sayer, who does a lot of special effects stuff, and then local Atlanta celebrities, Madeline Brumby and Shane Martin. Join us from time to time, and I guess we'll have to break down and get you on there too, Kevin, one of these days.
Yes. All right, Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Sarah. I'm a lighting technician in film and TV, and I don't always, but when I do, I.
And you've been waiting all day to say that, haven't you?
I have. I really have.
Yeah.
All right, so we are speaking about the 1980 film Friday the 13th. I have to admit that this is not one of my favorite of the franchises, but this is a film that a lot of people really enjoy, and whether or not I enjoy it or not, I hope we can come to an agreement on some of the great aspects of the film and what it did for the slasher genre, and talk about the director, who's John X. Cunningham, is one of my favorite horror directors. Yeah. So, getting started, I'd like to actually know when you all remember the first time seeing this film.
It was hard to forget. I fell into the media trap. I don't want to call it a trap, but I mean, Halloween came out, and Sean S. Cunningham has been very vocal about saying that he was very influenced by John Carpenter's Halloween, a film that we discussed on another show here, and he wanted to do something similar. And so when they advertised it, I didn't know anything about it. Just saw Friday the 13th, and the marketing around it hinted that it was going to be similar to Halloween, and I went and saw it in the theaters, and I went in sort of skeptical. And walked out thinking, well, it is sort of a knockoff of Halloween, but there were some things that he did in this film that weren't that bad. It was a lot more gory than the other one, much more gory. I mean, Halloween was virtually without any gore at all. It was all in your mind. Sean decided, let's just show it. Something that he sort of regretted, actually. He said he sort of wished he'd cut back on the gore a little bit, and they did on part two. If you noticed, if you watch part two right after one, you'll notice it's not anywhere near the amount of blood that you see in one. But it was a chance. My first introduction to Tom Savini, other than, well, I guess Days of the Dead really was the first time I saw Savini's work. I mean, noticeably, and so he followed that up with this one, and I learned to really like the way his special effects makeup. He was a good gore master at that. So it had a positive reaction for me when I first saw it. I mean, not as overwhelming as Halloween, but it was like, okay.
All right, how about you, Panozzo?
I don't remember the first time I watched it because, like, growing up in the 90s, like, all these things, they're already on, like, movie 10. And so you know who these people are. You know who Freddy and Jason are. But, like, you don't even have to watch the movies to know. And honestly, I think I saw the 2007 remake in theaters before I saw the first one officially. Oh, wow. And I was like, I feel like this isn't right, but okay. But ever
you
since
think about the 2007 one, you felt that way?
Yeah. I was like,
I definitely felt that way about that.
Really dark and gritty. And like, I think he was like a survivalist or something in the woods instead of like what he actually is. But like going back and rewatching it now every time, like every Friday the 13th I have off, I binge as many of them as I can. And like you said, Kevin, this is nowhere near the best one. Like you start with number 1 and by the time you get to 4, you're like, yeah, this is really rolling. But no, I mean, it's like you were saying, Jim, that they just wanted to like copy and paste Halloween, but with more blood and more gore. And the only other place that you could kind of equivalate like the teenagers not having any supervision is at summer camp.
Yeah. You got babysitters and then you got summer camp. So yeah, it was logical.
Are babysitters in the woods. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So my little story with this is I didn't watch these in order. So
oh, that's interesting.
So having seen the ones with Jason, I think I saw the third one first and then
I'm sorry.
Then the fifth one, and then I think I went back to the second one. And by the time I got to the first one as a kid, I was like, where the hell's Jason at? So I do remember that. And that's part of what has colored my appreciation of this movie. The fact that I watched them out of order, and this is not the first franchise I've ever watched out of order as a kid. I watched these in the 80s, probably the late 80s, similar to my experience watching the Halloween movies. I watched the first 3 before realizing that Michael Myers was really in the third one. With this one, I didn't realize Jason wasn't in the freaking first one.
No, not at all.
Like I'm watching part 3, I'm like, ooh, this is cool. He got a mask on. Yeah. And then going to part 5, it's like, I thought he died in the third one.
Yeah, well, it was the final chapter. I mean, no, in 4.
That was 4. I hadn't watched 4 yet.
That was final chapter. And usually when you say final chapter, that means that's it.
I watched part 5, and then I went back to 2, and I think I saw the 4th one after I'd seen the first one finally. So this my experience is watching these all out of order. And the only reason why I saw these movies is because I saw the trailer for part 6 when it was coming out, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be cool. Let me watch these movies. And my brother had to tell me that was part 6, and I was like, so do I need to watch the other ones? And he said yes. So I had to go back and watch the other ones. Didn't watch them in order. So that was my experience watching this. So my appreciation of the first one is very clouded and different than other people. My number one thing is I love Tom Savini. I love his contributions to this franchise and what he did with the first movie. I like the jump scare at the very end of the movie.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty much it.
even Brian De Palma was who he stole it from basically. De Palma used it in Carrie, and De Palma said, "Yeah, I liked it, even though I knew it was coming."
Well, and I mean, Jason wasn't really even in the movie until they got to that ending, and they were like, "Oh,
that's not really Jason," and it's not really Jason.
Something.
Yeah, it's not really Jason. It's a hallucination or a dream or however you interpret
or
that.
Or was it?
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because then he's alive.
But
for number 2,
the cops were there. They didn't see him.
No.
You remember the sheriff said, or the chief or whatever he was there. He said,
"What?
No, there was no boy there. We were watching you. We went and got you out of the canoe."
But somehow he was watching enough to see his mother killed, and he was old and cranky enough to survive for number 2.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, living out in the woods in a
shack.
Or whatever. Yeah, in a shack. Yeah, it was.
So maybe the 2007 version wasn't wrong, and he really is a survivalist in the woods.
No, I think the 2007 version was wrong on all counts.
To be honest with you, I actually enjoyed the 2007 because it actually had Jason, and it played, had Jason's mother in it as well. I was fine with the remake until the ending.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God.
I was fine with the remake. But the thing is, if it didn't have Jason in it, I would have felt cheated.
Oh yeah. I mean, I waited until it came on cable or whatever to watch 2007 one, and I liked it a little bit. I mean, I said, okay, this is better than the Halloween remake, but the ending just really destroyed it. It's like, what were you thinking?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So,
but getting back to the original Friday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'd only seen one other movie like this, and that was Halloween. So
Yeah.
I was sort of starved for seeing a few more of this new genre that I felt John Carpenter had launched, and didn't know what to expect. I never dreamed it would create so many wannabes. I mean, no, it's like in 1980, you turn around and every month, every holiday had a slasher film, it seemed like. You had April Fool's Day, Happy Birthday to Me.
Well, and then you got like Sleepaway Camp, like 2 years right after that, which is almost the same.
Well, the birthday, the birthday too. There's all these movies copied off Friday the 13th, and that was a very simplified plot.
I did like Sleepaway Camp though, because a good friend of mine was in the second one. And I became friends with Felicia, and so anytime I see someone in there that I know, it's like, okay. But I always my friend who's no longer with us, he died in early death, but he not because of the movie, but he's the one that got his head cut off in the second one, and I always asked him, I said, they'll let you keep the head? I'd love to see that, but no, he didn't get to keep the head.
Oh. Well, it brings up another point. These slasher movies in the 80s were really low budget. So because like Sean Cunningham would have just cranked it out as fast as he could to get it out there to audiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the days they filmed were a lot of like, okay, well, let's just pretend like we know what we're doing and walk through this day as if it's going to be what it really is.
A lot of ad-libbing.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Monopoly game thing was because they ran out of scene ideas, and they were like, well, what else do we have these kids do?
Yeah, well, what I did when I rewatched it, I actually have a greater appreciation of those scenes because they seemed authentic. Now
they really do, though.
And they were, yeah.
And they're a lot. They don't seem nearly as scripted as what you would find in a slasher nowadays. If tackle the exact same subject matter, bringing up the remake of Friday the 13th, everything seems scripted, whereas this one seemed like genuine camp counselors fixing stuff and having enjoying themselves without knowing that there's a slasher killer after them.
And that's one of the big things about this one is everything takes place in one night. So like you get into the trope eventually of like the stupid teenagers doing stupid stuff where it's like they run upstairs instead of running out the back door or whatever else. But like each of them getting murdered did not even know anybody else was murdered until you get to the end of the movie.
Yeah, they all split off.
Yeah, and it's not because they did it on purpose or anything. They had no idea somebody was out there murdering them.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the thing that inspired Scream. I mean, it was all about what you don't do in a horror film. And look at Friday the 13th, because that's the thing not to do.
Well, and it's funny because Wes Craven helped him and the director.
Oh, well, yeah, they were buddies. Friends. Yeah, they're the ones that did.
So I think it's so funny.
Yeah, Last House on the Left. That got them both going, and then Wes went his way, and Sean went his way, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sean became a very good producer of horror films.
Yeah,
among other things.
Very much so.
Doing his own monster movies and his own horror films outside of that. We'll get to some of those in later episodes, but
I mean, he did a couple that he did not have the success that Wes Craven had as far as the films he made.
Most of the people who were in this didn't have much success after this. A lot of them were blacklisted just because of the extremity of the movie. I mean, I think the only two actors who really did three actors was Pam Voorhees, Kevin Bacon, and then Bing Crosby's son.
Right.
So it's
Kevin Bacon had a little bit of a track record going in,
right?
Which
Exactly.
Insulated him a little bit.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, he's one of the first to get killed, and
that's right.
The better killed.
The thing, I didn't realize it until I paused to write something down, and I happened to look at his sex scene, and I realized looking at because the pillow is the whole bottom right corner, and I was like, there is blood all over that pillow.
Is it really?
There is. I was, and I know that the guy is dead in the bunk above him, but it's how do you not notice that there's blood on your pillow?
That's right. I never noticed that until I got a big screen TV, and it definitely this time around I noticed it. It was like, wow,
Yeah.
He was a passion.
I don't know, Kevin. Some of us might draw the line at that.
Yeah, I think going over the line.
this is a slasher movie, and whoever has sex dies. Although that is not really true in this one.
No, and Cunningham was as insistent as John Carpenter was by saying that is not the message we were sending. He said we were sending a message that these kids were stupid.
Yeah,
I mean, themselves in stupid situations.
If you come from like Pam Voorhees' side, then yeah, it's all about premarital sex and everything that. But like, so many of the camp counselors were actually like trying to help. Like I forgot what her name is, but she hears the boy screaming or whatever, and she goes to help him and gets murdered. And it's like, why are you killing these good people? You literally have no reason.
Yeah.
Well, the more innocent early 80s, because this was actually 1980. So it was really the innocent part of the 80s. It didn't get into the hardcore stuff like The Burning or some of the other later 80s films where
you really had to get into around 82, 83 before the really the stuff that I like to collect was and everybody else haunted the video stores for.
Yeah, and you're right.
They all had those obligatory scenes in them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this one, when you think about it, yeah, they've got that lengthy. I think the sex scene's a little lengthy for what the storyline would justify, but it didn't show anything. I mean, it was pretty tame. I mean, it could have been shown on TV.
Well, yeah, compared to what these guys did before this, which were their two other films.
Yeah. Oh, Last House on the Left, my God.
Yeah.
Well, like that, and then there was literally like a porn that they did and a softcore porn.
Yeah, Sean Cunningham did several softcore.
Yeah, before this, and so it's the fact that it was so tame and like that's not even the worst part of the movie. Like people are like, oh my God, there's sex in the movie, and then it's like you see somebody taking an axe to the face, and then all of a sudden everybody loses their minds.
An axe to the face, an arrow through the throat.
I think Kevin Bacon's death was the one that got me to go, whoa, oh my God, yeah. I didn't see that coming at all.
You've never seen it come out from the front before. It's always been from the front to the back.
Yeah.
Well, that's Tom Savini, who, by the way, did some amazing work on this film. Yes. It still holds up. When I rewatched, I was like, this still holds up pretty well.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
So if you've seen a lot of the behind-the-scenes photos or documentaries, because this has been exhausted beyond belief between Crystal Lake Memoir, a whole bunch of other stuff. They go through exhaustively the entire Friday the 13th franchise. So if we can appreciate the first film, we got to see how this franchise has bothered to last and outlast so many other franchises. Whether it's the first film that helped guide this and guide the genre, or if it truly is like me and I just like, people just like Jason Voorhees and killing people.
I don't know. I can't understand how they got so many out of it. The one thing about Friday the 13th is the franchise that I always get a kick out of. I sort of helped take care of my little nephew when he was growing up, and I got him into monster movies very early on. So he was of age where he could rent videos, and he came home with Friday the 13th Part 8. This is the one where they're on the cruise ship and all that. And I was telling him like moments before it happened, well, so this is how this one's going to get killed, and he goes, "You've seen this, haven't you?" And I said, "No, but I've seen enough to know the formula."
Yeah. They're very formulaic, all of them.
Yeah.
And they were cranking them out almost one a year.
It's like Paranormal Activity. I never understood how that franchise lasted as long as it did. And I know I'm in a minority there, but I like the first one, and the others I didn't really, I just thought they were rehashing the first one. But this one just defies description. I mean, they
we're getting 2 more TV shows in the next year or two.
Yeah.
So it's still going. I mean, it's still relevant, I guess.
Never stop.
People love Jason.
You see kids and adults dress up like Jason every year at various horror conventions, sci-fi conventions, Halloween. And it's Jason. I hate to say this, no one's dressing up like Pamela Voorhees. But they're dressing up like Jason.
Unless you got someone walking around with their head cut off. Now that could possibly pass as.
I mean, and they're just whispering to themselves, kill her, mommy, the entire time.
I love the fact that Betsy Palmer, who I remembered fairly well because growing up, she was on TV a lot, and she made a lot of appearances on game shows and these variety shows and stuff, and then just sort of dropped out of sight for a while until this one. I got a kick out of an interview she did where she said, "I don't even know who this guy is with the mask." I had no idea. And of course, she's classically quoted as saying when she first read the script, she says, "What a piece of shit."
Yeah. And the only reason why she did it was because her car broke down and she needed a car. But I mean, and I know she's grown into the series and like loves it and she goes to all the things, but I think the coolest part is she came up with her own backstory that fits perfectly with the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where that Jason was a result of teen pregnancy and her parents disowned her boyfriend left her. And that's why she hates premarital sex. Yeah. And it's like, it's genius. It fits.
No, I didn't know that. I did not know that. Okay. See, that's why you're here. You're here to give me more information I didn't know. Now, considering this is not
keeping an entire record for you of everything.
Well, you got to keep in mind, this is not one of my favorite films. I don't regularly watch it or any of the movies in the franchise, really.
Well, I confess tonight, I haven't regularly watched it since
but the thing.
First watching in 30-some years.
Well, the thing is, I can appreciate the longevity that the franchise has.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have tons of friends who are huge fans of this franchise. It never did anything for me. I was more at the time either Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger fan. I just like watching them kill people, and then I completely forget the movie. What was that, part 6 or part 8? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I mean they blend together. The only one that doesn't blend together is 3 because it was so awful that it's
I mean, you're forgetting about the wonderful number 10 in space.
Oh no, I've got a confession to make. I actually liked that one. Only because I had the hots for the android. I mean, she was my God. I watched it just for her. It was like, in fact, I think I watched it again about a year ago, thinking, I got to see that gal. She was something else.
I can't remember her name. I just remember.
I can't either. I cannot remember the actress's name at all.
But the kills are so original in a lot of them. I mean, they find new ways to kill somebody in every single one.
Yeah, it's so ludicrous. The things. I mean, they really had to get imaginative being in outer space to pull that one.
The frozen face in like the 19th.
Yeah. Plus, it had David Cronenberg in the opening. Come on.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I was like, why are you in this movie? So, but he's the director. Yeah, well, he knows the director, and so he does favors. He does favors. He does movies occasionally when he decides to do a favor for a friend.
He does. Yeah, you'll see him pop up here and there.
Yeah. But that's not a movie you were expecting him to be in.
No, not at all.
No.
Wes Craven, absolutely.
Yes.
Cronenberg, not so much.
Yeah. And now David Lynch. You could add Lynch to the name. Lynch likes to show up in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually it's his stuff, but it's pulling the old Alfred Hitchcock there.
Don't get me started on Lynch. I'm still trying to get through his event series for freaking Twin Peaks, which I can't stand.
Yeah. You ought to put that on your list.
I love Twin Peaks. Don't get me wrong. I love
it too. Yeah,
original show.
Yeah,
I love the movie. Do not like the freaking event series. I'm like on episode 4, and I'm like, dude, this.
I haven't seen that. Yeah, I have not.
Pretty freaking bad. Yeah. I'm like, there's a big difference between Friday the 13th and Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah, big difference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Apple pie is the difference. Yeah.
Apple pie is the difference, and of course, David Lynch is an auteur of the highest regards.
Absolutely.
I will always agree with that. Sean S. Cunningham just didn't get the lucky end of the stick, especially considering the people that he helped bring up, like Wes Craven.
Oh my God, yeah.
And Steve Miner, who.
Well, Sean almost became like an Ed Wood. I mean, in a sense, there was some very similar. He pulled away from Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it starts making all kinds of money. He's going, oh crap, because he didn't think it was going to do anything. And he did manage to jump back in near the end, and do get involved with some of them at the end there, but and including the infamous 10. It's funny. He almost ended up like an Ed Wood type guy. He was like, came up with this original franchise and then didn't make a dime off of it.
Nope, but I do wish that he had had a better career after this, but he did.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He did usher in Friday 13th, the entire one. I'm trying. No, it's not. I don't think it's one of the longest running franchises anymore. I think Saw.
No, but at the time it was.
No, right now it's got 12 movies. Halloween has 13.
Yeah.
Lengthwise, as number of years, I mean, it's Halloween.
Halloween 13. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I think Saw they got 10 now, but 10. Halloween has 13.
13.
I didn't even realize that. 13. Okay, so I know Friday 13th always tried to get to that lucky number 13 movie, but they just haven't yet.
I mean, there's still time, Kevin.
Oh my God.
And it's going to be released on Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
That's right. It was. Yeah, it was Friday the 13th.
I love that they tried to explain that Jason's birthday was the 13th and just happened to be on a Friday, which is how they stuck with the title, because they just had the title before they had anything else. He was like, it's going to be called Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Cunningham wanted that. I forgot what Victor Miller, the writer.
I had it written down.
I didn't write down what it was. It was
A Long Night at Camp Blood, which is why everybody in the diner refers to the camp as Camp Blood.
Camp Blood, that's right, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you wrote that down. Just read that this morning again, and I couldn't remember it.
Yeah, no, because he had the name, put an ad in Variety, and was like, I need to raise money for this. And then
that's all he had. Yeah, all he had was the name.
And then he got the script, and they're like, great, how do we make this?
Yeah. His main investor said he'd pony up 25%, and then changed his mind and said, "No, I want to do the whole thing," which Cunningham was uncomfortable with, but he said he slept on it, and the next day he said, "Yeah, okay,
I'll take the money and run."
$500,000, $500,000, and it returns like $69,000 or $69 million.
It was 59.8.
Yeah, and then we count the European releases too. I think you can tack another 10 million onto it.
Okay,
and then a hell of a return.
Yeah, so their biggest budget was in marketing. They had $1 million in just marketing alone.
That's right. Yeah,
it was one of the biggest of that time.
Well, their marketing of this reminded me a lot of The Omen. The Omen, when it marketed itself, was just the poster with the name. You had no idea what it was about. And from what I recall back in 1980, it was just that original poster, the first one that we all remember with just sort of the figure. Figure of a man, and that's all they would run, and it was like, God, what is this? So it did, and it worked. I mean, it made a lot of us want to go see it.
Minimalism, that's what sold a lot of movies back then. Can't do that nowadays.
No, it ruins everything.
But before I forget, what was the actual budget? Because I keep thinking you guys were talking over each other. I want to know
$550,000.
Yes.
500. See, that's an amazing amount of money to make this film for, and
absolutely
the return is astronomical for the time in which it was released.
But then if you put it in comparison to Halloween, which had half that budget at $300,000,
right?
And it's like, artistically wise, it is a world's difference.
But
they also didn't have the blood and guts to do anything with. They didn't have a special effects budget.
They didn't have Tom Savini.
No, that's right.
I love him so much.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And I know he learned a ton on this, especially with the blood with the guy who had the arrow in his eye and everything like that. He almost lost that eye because of how they used to make blood back then, like that he couldn't see out of that eye for 6 months, I think it said.
It almost reminds me of Ron McClellan's stuff there.
Yeah.
I was trying to hunt down the picture of me with the railroad spike in my head from Jason in the fan film, and I couldn't find it in time for tonight. But
for those
who remember that, because you were on that shot.
Yeah, for those of you listening, you won't know Ron McClellan. He is a Georgia filmmaker who did a fan film based on Friday the 13th called The Man in the Lake, which I also happen to have written here, the original first draft of. And then, of course, Ron took the draft and augmented it.
Yes.
to say the least. Which was fine. He made it closer to what a Jason film would be like, because he's a huge fan of the Friday 13th.
Oh, it was very loyal to the franchise.
He's very loyal, and he brought back a lot of characters from the franchise, especially Ralph, Crazy Ralph, to be in his fan film. And that's the thing. This franchise has an enduring popularity. I've probably watched 100 fan films for Friday 13th alone, having been the program director for Something Wicked Fan Fest. We did a ton of watching of all these fan films, and Friday 13th is by far one of the most popular. Oh, yeah. Mostly because he's so easy to emulate with a hockey mask.
Hockey mask and some coveralls, and you got him, man.
Yeah, you do. And there are plenty of there with Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers. For some reason, people like to get really elaborate with the fan films, and Jason Voorhees likes to kill people in very elaborate ways. So I see a lot of those, and there's some really good ones out there. So that is part of the enduring popularity of the franchise itself, and why this film is important, because like we've already said, it jump-started the popularity of the slasher genre after Halloween kind of kicked everyone in their ass. It took them by surprise. This one kind of took the ball and ran with it to 12 sequels. 12 sequels and counting, since there is a television show. But unlike Halloween, it had different elements. Jason Voorhees hasn't come into the later sequels. It had an original concept in regards to disgruntled mother who is avenging, in her eyes, the death of her son. Which is very different considering some of the other ones that came out. Now that became something very similar to a lot of other films, like The Burning, where Cropsy is avenging himself, and then of course, what is it? You got, I think it's Prom Night's another one that does something similar, and it became a norm for all these later 80s films. Which
it really was the first of its kind, not just with the gore, but with the fact that it was like, oh my God, the killer's a woman.
Yeah, and I didn't see, and I got to confess, I did not see that coming the first time I saw this movie.
Well, it doesn't help that they've got the special effects assistant running around doing all the fight scenes as the killer the entire time. So you see the men's boots and the men coveralls, and you see like a man's build most of the movie. So, bringing in Pam Voorhees last minute as a surprise.
That was the big surprise
on TV. She's evil.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm really surprised I did not pick up on that in 1980, but I didn't. And a lot of us in the theater didn't. We didn't see it coming.
Well, it doesn't help that they don't show her until right before. She's not a character until that point.
When she shows up at the camp itself.
Which is something that a lot of horror films do not do. The only other one I could think of that actually does it really well like that, where you have no setup of who the person is the killer at the end, is Seven. At the end of Seven, you have no idea who the killer is, and all of a sudden it's freaking Kevin Spacey, and people are like, what just happened? Where did this come from? It's Kevin Spacey. What?
One of the big things now, if you see another big name actor who has such a minor scene, you instantly think they're the villain. So it's got to be somebody completely playing against part, or it's got to be somebody no name. So that's why I love Hot Fuzz so much, is you've got the court of villains, and you're sitting there it could be any of these people. And then, joke's on you, it's all of them.
Yeah, which they stole from Agatha Christie and
exactly.
And the Orient Express. Friday the 13th 5. Now they sort of had that going for them, because I saw that in the theaters, and I didn't really quite figure it out until just moments before they revealed the real killer. That was the father of the kid that they all picked on. They set it up nicely, so you, in the first half of the film, you thought, oh, it's that guy, no, it's that one, it's that one, going back and forth, and going back to maybe it's Tommy, maybe he is totally wacko after what should have been the final chapter and wasn't, and all that. But so they did utilize that. That 5 is the one that I like probably a little better than 1, but they're sort of up there on the same pedestal. Then the others are just sort of rehash of of a theme.
Part 5
got a little creative.
Part 5 is very much almost a remake of the first one in terms of the way the story flows.
Oh, the way the story unfolds. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And the thing is, you don't know who the killer is by the end.
Except for Reckless Reggie, he steals the show.
Reckless Reggie just does steal the show. That one for me actually has aged better than some of the other ones, despite the fact
it has. Yeah.
I don't think the performances are mostly all that good, but I think it aged better than what most people think because of the fact that it plays so close to the very first one.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, like part 2, you once Jason gets the mask, you can't unsee that stupid sack on his head. So you kind of going in like, he's got a sack. If the kills are good, it's okay. He's got a sack on his head. I just wish he had the hockey mask.
But then you get that gnarly face reveal at the end that totally matches like what the kid looks like at the end of the first one. If he was like another 20 years older.
Yeah, you're right. You do. And I'm surprised I remember all this because I haven't seen these movies in a long time.
And then like, what is it? The third one where he's like looking at the chick outside of the barn from the second story and he's got no mask on. He's just like, you could see he's having fun. And it's like, oh, this guy's nuts.
Yeah.
I just remember the third one for the him getting the mask and the subpar 3D effects. That
the whole movie was made for the effects.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing that I think it's
the whole
the worst
gag of 3D at the time. I mean,
that's all they did. From the paddle ball on, there was no story at all. It's just like, what can we throw at the camera to make it seem like it's coming at people? I mean, that was all they did.
That's an 80s 3D movie, though. But, most of the time they did these to throw stuff at the audience. Look at Jaws 3D, Amityville 3D. I've seen them all, baby.
Oh, no, I was a big 3D nut. I mean, I went and saw every 3D movie that came out. And I saw Jaws 3D and Am 3D and all that just to... Yeah, Jaws 3D was another worthless one.
There's a reason why theme parks still have the 3D and 4D shows where people can experience those things live.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
But 3D is so much better now than it was back then.
Oh, I mean, once we hit like Avatar,
this new digital 3D system is just incredible.
Yeah.
Where the stuff you can literally reach out and almost touch it. I mean,
you don't like the anaglyph red and blue? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I can still make those. I can make those on my Corel, but it's like, but it's like, some of the Marvel stuff that I saw 3D and definitely Avatar and of course the stuff at Disneyland and all that or Disney World. I mean, you literally could almost reach out and touch the stuff. I mean, you wanted to. It was that effective. So.
Well, don't knock me, but I did go see the Meg 2, The Trench in 3D this year. So
did you?
Yeah. I wanted to see some freaking sharks come eat me. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, I watched the Meg in 4D the first time. I was on my honeymoon on a cruise ship. So I was terrified because I grew up.
Now, what is 4D? Now, how does that stack up to 3D?
They move the seats and do a whole bunch of stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's sort of like the old William Castle shit. Okay.
They had a bunch of nights where like you could sit in like the pool and watch it on the big screen. So we're all sitting there like floating in the water on a boat in the middle of darkness. And
nice.
We're gonna die.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's right out of William Castle's book. Yeah, that's great.
Wait, I think they did Friday 13th remake in 3D too.
They might have. They might have.
I'm trying.
That was when the new 3Ds were starting to really catch fire again.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I saw My Bloody Valentine 3D, and I'm thinking.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Came out right about.
Saw that, and I didn't see the first one in the theater. The first one I didn't see in the theater. I saw that on VHS, but. Yeah, when the 3D one came out, I'm parked in the theater with my little glasses.
Such an experience.
Oh yeah.
I'm a sucker for 3D experience. Anything that gets me integrated into the films, and even though it's cheesy to watch Friday 13th 3D, I've still each time I watch it, because I have the 3D glasses, I have the 3D version. I've seen it in 3D. If we do a conversation about Friday 13th 3D, I'm sure I'm gonna watch it in 3D just so y'all can laugh at me.
It'll be a short show.
I thought this was going to be a short show, but
I can give you a thumbnail, folks. Friday the 13th 3D, bad acting, horrible script, and lousy effects. End of discussion. And a fat kid that you want to slap silly throughout the whole damn movie until he gets killed. In fact, one of the few times that in the theater they stood up and cheered someone getting killed in the movie.
Well, and I find that was most of the movies going on after one. Like, one had the most sympathetic characters, and then you slowly stop liking any of the characters.
That's right.
And you were just waiting for anybody to die.
Yeah. Well, they stole that from Jaws 2. I think in Jaws 2, that was one of the rare movies where I rooted for the shark. Because those kids were just so
annoying.
The most recent,
yes. Oh my god!
On Netflix, that's how we were like, oh my god, I understand why Leatherface is like the way he is. I just want kids to die.
I love the new Leatherface movie. I don't even what's it called. I don't even remember what it's called anymore.
I don't know. I haven't seen that one. That one's on my list to see, and I just haven't gotten around to it.
Oh, I like the
There's
fact
so many that I gotta see. Yeah.
So, don't give me. There's a reason why we haven't put Texas Chainsaw Massacre on our list to watch list, because I don't know which one to put on since there's so many random ones now.
And I think you almost have to put the first one on because it sort of stands alone from all the others, and then it really is totally different than all the others. And that's not to say the others are bad, because there's a lot of them that I like, but they're different movies. They're as different as Alien to Aliens. They're sort of apples and oranges. So, but so I think you've got to put more than one on the list, probably.
We're not discussing sequels yet in terms of
not yet.
Episodes. We'll get to that eventually. We're going to get to the real movies first, and then there might be a sequel.
When he runs out of stuff to talk about, folks, and all of a sudden, hey, we got some sequels we can bring in.
I don't think Kevin's ever going to run out of stuff to talk about with original horror movies.
I don't think so either. No.
I'll just throw in some sequels. There's some good ones. We might throw in like Evil Dead 2 every once in a while.
Absolutely.
There's got to be a discussion about these movies, because the thing is, if we don't discuss them, no one else will. I mean,
that's true.
Everyone's discussing the major horror films. I'm sure people out there talking the whole kinds of shit about Saw and Paranormal Activity and stuff like that. People aren't discussing the movies that we're discussing here. I'm surprised we're talking about Friday the 13th. No one's talked about the first one probably in a long while. They usually talk about the latest ones.
That's
true. The genre, the franchise in general. But we
the bloodiest one or whatever. Yeah.
We did an episode on Brotherhood of the Wolf. Anyone talking about Brotherhood of the Wolf out there? Don't know how many people are talking about that.
No, I gotta watch it so I can appreciate. I'm not gonna listen to the podcast till I watch.
I know that the Shudder community is very vocal about it. It is ranked as one of the scariest movies they have on there, which hard disagree.
Yeah, you definitely make it. Well, I've already during this show I was writing down where I can get it. So,
I love the movie. I'm
looking forward to seeing it. I'll watch it this week.
That's scary.
It's not scary.
It's got great choreography.
Yeah, great fight choreography, great dramatic scenes. I consider it more of like a dramatic film with a couple of horror elements.
Yeah.
Scariest movie? That's scary, actually.
Speaking of great fight scenes, that ending fight between
that is awesome. They could have sold separate tickets to that alone. I mean, I know guys who would pay big money to see two women fight like that. Oh my God.
Well, and I guess when they first tried to fight, they didn't have anything going on. They were trying to I stabbed you.
Yeah.
And I guess Savini was packing up his truck with his assistant, and he was like, we can't leave yet. I know they're done with us, but we can't leave, because it turns out Savini is actually part of the Society of British Fight Directors, which I never
know that. Yeah.
And him and his assistant Tasso, who was also the Jason stand-in or the murderer stand-in throughout the movie, choreographed the entire fight scene for them, which is why it looks so good.
It's one of the best parts of the movie.
It's so well done. Yeah, it's so well done. When I rewatched it, I was like, and it's not just the choreography of it. It's also the editing and the music that they put underneath it. It's so effective. Even when I recently rewatched it, it's still effective. And this is a movie I've never really cared much for. That ending is really effective because what you've been set up for, everything before then, is kind of like this dramatic horror film. Because a lot, with the exception of like the Kevin Bacon and a couple of other the murders, some of the murders are off screen.
That's right.
So that whole ending sequence when Pamela Voorhees is fighting Alice.
Yes, Alice.
And fighting Alice, and then Alice, chops her head off. Is an amazing sequence.
It's so great, and I didn't realize until I watched it in slow motion. I love the movies that made us on Netflix.
Yes,
and they have a great episode on this, and they did a slowdown of it where you can see Tasso like hunched over with the giant like blaster shoulders and head. And they were like, the only thing holding it up were 2 toothpicks. So when he goes to slice it, Savini actually slices it. So if you look, they've got like man hands slicing. And then you can see the 2 little toothpicks sticking up out of the neck. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, I love Savini. I love his work. I love special effects.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's the best.
It has so much stuff in it that is so much fun.
Yeah. Well, the thing that now if movies throw one element in there that they had in this fight scene, when she grabs the machete and goes after Pamela Voorhees in slow-mo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That has been stolen so many times by so many movies now. When I see it in a movie now, it's like, oh, please stop with the slow-mo. But there it works.
Yeah.
And it was the first time anybody ever tried something like that. And it was very effective. It was, it was a stylistic statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, that was one thing about the movie I really liked about the way it was made.
Well, and that goes with the ending too, with the slow-mo of him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
With the boat. And it's like, you can actually like, it's not a blink and you'll miss it moment, like in Carrie where it is, where it's very fast and then it's done.
Yeah.
This just lingers the entire time.
Also with the music.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it only plays when when you're seeing from killer vision definitely helps.
Well, that scene where she's getting dragged under the boat by the young Jason, the way that the music is just playing over there and it slowly fades to white. And then, of course, it goes to her being in the hospital. That the whole sequence is amazing from the moment she's out there on the boat thinking everything's calm on a calm lake. And then the terror rises, and then she wakes up and no one knows what she's talking about when she says, she's asking about the boy.
What about the boy? Yeah, how many times has that been quoted on a set?
Exactly.
Harry Manfredini. I just wanted to mention him. He's the guy that did the music for this.
Music score.
He's the one that came up with the and it's his voice. It's his voice that does it in all the films.
It's actually supposed to be kill, 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 mommy, mommy, mommy.
That's right.
And he just put it into like a reverb machine.
Yeah.
And that was it.
There's your signature.
I believe it was even in the remake too when they used.
It's in all of them. Every Friday
the
like the 13th movie ever created uses his music.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, how could you not? I mean, it's so perfect for
it's great
setting the table for what's going to happen there. It doesn't take away from the film. It doesn't overpower it like some contemporary films. The music overpowers them, and so you're sitting there going, "Hey, that's cool music." Oh, what happened on the screen? I forgot. But it actually enhances the scene. It really created that spookiness that they. That the coolest part about this movie, I would give it to the art direction and the folks that put all this together, the cinematographer as well. You never feel right when you get to the camp. It just doesn't feel right, and it's not overt. It's just one of those very subtle, uncomfortable feelings. It's like, I really want to leave this place,
Yeah, I mean, even
but
with
you're
like
stuck there having to watch it.
Even with the fake out of the final girl at the beginning, where you're like watching her come
Yes.
down, and then all of a sudden she gets killed, and you're like, wasn't that the main character? It's like the buildup of the beginning of Scream.
Oh, I know it. That's right. Yeah.
That's a good point. I mentioned that I made a note of that too. It didn't dawn on me until I was rewatching it. I was like, oh wait, this is a setup for what you think is the main character.
Yeah,
but
Annie is just a minor character.
Yeah.
It's just your first victim. That's pretty well. Technically, your first victim. I mean, not counting the flashback in the beginning.
So, like the third victim, I think.
Third victim, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the two lovers get it actually first.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like you mentioned earlier with the teenage stupidity, like you see him going back and forth around tables, and it's like, then if you just stay behind the table, why are you running into the place where you have nowhere else to run?
Yeah. Well, it's like that commercial for I think it's for Geico or
whatever the
where
car
they stole the idea with all the kids trying to get away from the
like,
serial killer, and it's like, well, what about the running car? No, that's stupid. Let's go
run into the barn full of saws.
Yeah, the chainsaws. Yeah, okay, let's do that. Yeah, just making terrible decisions all the way around.
Well,
that's the influence this film has had on everything.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to our end, but I would like to know if there are any final thoughts from you both in regards to this film, and whether or not our audience can enjoy it, or just final thoughts in general. How about you, Jim?
Well, I think you've got to keep in mind that if you're ever in a scary situation, do not split up. And if someone says, "I'll be right back," they're toast. All of the main features that are laid out in Scream came from this movie, pretty much. All the stupid things that people do in these slasher films, they're a hell of a lot of fun. And I don't go in there with a critical eye as far as, although some technique, like I mentioned a minute ago, I really really liked, and I liked Tom Savini's work in this. But these are just, I don't want to say mindless entertainment, but they're just, a lot of them, they just take you on a nice roller coaster ride, and then you come out of it sort of out of breath and move on to the next. So there's a place in the film world for these films.
Okay. How about you, Sarah? Tell us a little bit.
When it comes to the gore and the special effects work, it's definitely worth a watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've said before, I am slightly a psychopath to the point that I fall asleep to these kinds of movies. Like I might have fallen asleep watching this one because I was like, oh yeah, this is the safe place. It's fine. I know what's going to happen. There's going to be some blood. There's going to be some guts, but it doesn't terrify you like it would have back then. I do feel bad for the snake. This did not.
Oh God, yeah,
animal rights things, because if you don't like animals dying, they did kill a pet snake. But yeah, outside of that, it's fun. It's a young Kevin Bacon that you get to see before he was really famous, and everybody in this was a nobody. So you get to see a lot of fun acting choices.
All right. Friday 13th, everyone. 1980 slasher. It's a beginning or proto slasher, since most slashers took what this one, or what was successful in this one, and they kind of augmented to create what the slasher genre would eventually become. But this film still holds an undying appreciation from audiences everywhere, franchises. It has enduring elements, not only technical but also story elements for people who love the slasher genre. And I can recommend it for that alone. I won't reiterate, or maybe I will, say that Tom Savini did some amazing work on here, but he did some amazing work in here, and as well as a lot of his other films. And this is a film in which, if you watch any of the behind the scenes for this film, you'll get a greater appreciation of the job that he and his assistants did on such a low budget. They came up with some magic on this film, and even Sean S. Cunningham, who I always have loved his work, and hopefully I'll be able to discuss some of his other producing work and directing works like Deep Star 6 and House.
Oh,
but this film does have some merits as being not only a proto slasher film, but also as an enduring film for a franchise that is completely undying and has touched generations. Like, this isn't a film that keeps getting remade and rebuilt for generations. Modern day audiences are going back to watching these original films. It's only been remade officially once, but modern audiences go back to watch these original films, and that means that they have an enduring quality that modern films just lack.
It's also gotten to the point where they have officially started doing weekend haunts at sleepaway camps where you can then be chased by killers.
Yep.
So it's started a lot of cosplay and role play games too.
They've held up well over the 40 plus years they've been around.
And they still have the Boy Scout camp open to this day with its memorabilia and everything.
That's right, up there in New Jersey.
Yeah,
Yep, sure are.
Oh my God! See,
they've got their memorabilia wall up there at the. I forgot. It's a crazy name, like Camp Bebop Boop or something like that. But it's, it's. They had to make a donation to the Boy Scouts of America.
Yeah, Nobi Bosco.
Nobi Bosco. Thank you. I knew it was something really crazy.
I have heard that. Thank you for reminding me. I have heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I want to thank you for joining us on Conversations in Horror. My name is Kevin Powers. I've been the host for this amazing conversation here. I hope that you will seek out some of our previous episodes and check out some of our future episodes because we'll have nothing but more cult and classic films to discuss.
We'll have more Friday the 13th because, as you know, it never dies. It just keeps going and going and going.
And with that, I guess we'll have to do a sequel conversation soon.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And then a spin-off of Freddy versus Jason.
Oh my God! Oh, I know that. I got to go watch that one again. I'm not sure what my opinion is on that one. I've seen it twice.
Thank you, Jim and Sarah, for joining me on this conversation, and I will see everyone on the next episode. Have a good evening. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.